We strongly feel that education is the most important weapon to fight against child labor as a preventive measure, as a curative measure, as well as a rehabilitative measure. So education must be made free, compulsory, and meaningful for all children in the world. The second priority for us to see that the most neglected sections of child labor have to be brought to the public agenda and political agenda. For instance, 60% of child laborers are working in agriculture sector alone, and that is extremely hazardous for children. But that is an area which has largely neglected by the society and by the government. So our focus is also to bring child labor in agriculture sector into the political domain and to make strong efforts to eliminate child labor from there. The third important thing is the whole issue of corporate social responsibility, because the role of corporations and the businesses are growing and deepening worldwide very fast in the globalized economy. So it is very necessary that there has to be zero tolerance in the corporate sector towards child labor in their entire supply chain. So they have to ensure that no child labor is engaged in any kind of production and supply of the products which they are selling all over the world. Then we strongly feel that there is a serious need of child and youth engagement and participation in the fight against child labor. And finally, I would say that there is a need to strengthen the worldwide movement against child labor, because the political will comes out of public demand and the public pressure. And the public pressure will generate only when there is a strong movement at country level, in each country, at regional level, in each region, and globally. Education, addressing the most neglected forms of child labor, and corporate social responsibility. Well, when we started the Global March, that was a physical march across 103 countries, which went on for 6 months and covered more than 80,000 kilometers distance. So the first outcome of the Global March was an ILO convention, what we call the Convention on Worst Forms of Child Labor. Then Global March has worked hard in ratification of that convention and linking with education and so on. Now we are very happy to say that Global March has played some role in it, of course, but there are many more factors. The number of child laborers worldwide have come down from 250 million to 215 million. So at least 35 million children are less than before. And considering the demographic growth or the population growth, it could have been much bigger, but we are happy to say that the number has been decreased. Similarly, the number of out-of-school children have been decreased from 130 million to 60 million. So these are very concrete results we can see. So I'm very optimistic that child labor will end soon. The total abolition of child labor in all its forms is possible, it's achievable, and it's affordable. Actually, the number now has narrowed down to those forms which are difficult to reach or hard to address, because some children comparatively easier to be freed and to be brought into schools and education. But now it has become harder and harder, because the children who cannot be easily freed and withdrawn, they are bonded laborers, child slaves, children who are victims of trafficking, children living and working in fragile states, the children who are victims of HIV and AIDS, sufferers of HIV and AIDS, children who are suffering disabilities or these kind of problems. But most importantly, the children who are engaged in remote areas and living in acute poverty. So these are the difficult challenges now, to reach out to those hard to reach children in terms of withdrawing them from child labor and also in terms of educating them and bringing in the mainstream of life. For that, one major challenge is the mindset, sometimes the cultural mindset, you can say. The people have to be sensitized, the poor people in the remotest areas, that child labor is not good for their own economy, for their own personal prosperity and growth, and not for health or education. It's bad. So that has to be communicated. The second major problem is we still see that child labor is not a high level political agenda in comparison to health, in comparison to HIV and AIDS, comparison to say global warming. Child labor is very, very small issue. So how to build up a momentum around child labor to generate global political will, that is a major challenge. Another challenge, I would say, the financial deficit. The governments are not spending adequate resources for the eradication of child labor and for education of those children and rehabilitation. So these challenges are vital. But another major challenge is that how the consumers could be galvanized and sensitized that they must boycott all the products and services which are made by child laborers and particularly by child slaves.